Hello and welcome back to the Formula 1 chat. The Azerbaijan Grand Prix was very, very boring, so we're here to try and add some spice to the race in this review. Not a lot to talk about, but we're going to try and add some interesting, conversation about it. If you're going to enjoy, if you're going to enjoy, make sure to leave a like, comment, and tell us what a great job we did spicing up the most boring week of Formula 1 so far.
Might have been boring, but guess what? We've never talked about on a review before, a sprint shootout.
Oh, mate, it wasn't very exciting, was it?
It was so dull.
I think I like the quali format. It's very high paced, very exciting. I just feel one shot would work better.
It would.
Send the first 10, or send all 20 out. Yeah. Get them all to put in some laps. 15-minute session. Knock the bottom 10 out. Yeah. Leave the top 10. Send them out one shot. So it gets pole. That seems more exciting to me. We're going to focus in on one driver. More chances for error. They're under a lot of pressure. You're the one driver on track as everyone watches you. That's nervy. And I think that would be more exciting than what we saw. But I don't think the quali was the worst part of the weekend. So, quali on the Friday. Should we look at the results?
Yes.
Because, I'll be honest, it's been a while. I've forgotten. I've been too busy singing about Ollie Behrman all weekend.
Leclerc,
who is the GOAT.
He's back. His third pole in a row at Baku.
Baku, he loves the circuit, doesn't he? Him and Checo, to be fair, both of them big fans of the Baku City Street circuit. I don't think it was a big shock to see Leclerc up there, other than the fact that Red Bull have been so quick this season. Then obviously the Red Bull's 2-3, no surprise. Yeah. Sainz fourth, he was always about a second off Charles. And that's the worry for Ferrari.
He was off the pace.
He was not, in the sprint shootout, he was about 8/10 off Charles. In quali, he was 9/10. That's over one lap. In the race and in the sprint, he was a couple places behind, over 20 seconds in the race in the end. So
mental.
I don't know. Do Ferrari have something to worry about with Carlos? Especially if they lose Charles. Because there's a good chance Charles might go to Mercedes come the end of the season. If Lewis Hamilton retires. If they only have Carlos in the car, are they worried about their future?
Not if they've got Behrman, but
well, exactly. By the way, we will do an F2 sort of roundup. We're going to leave it until after Miami, and we'll sort of do a big video about Formula 2. But yeah, so apologies. I know I also want to talk about Ollie Behrman for 30 minutes, but that'll come in a couple of weeks. Then other things to mention: Russell quali kind of got hot covered, didn't he, by Logan Sargent forgetting whether he hit the walls or not.
He was Russell. Yeah, no, that did happen. No. Sargent didn't crash in that one. Sargent crashed on the Saturday. What are you on about? Russell was just poor.
Oh yeah. It was a sprint shout out that he crashed. But why was Russell knocked out? I suppose something happened.
He was just slow.
No, there was a crash at the end of Q2, was there not?
No, he was just slow.
I know Vries crashed in Q1, didn't he? And that didn't affect too much, other than it knocked out.
No, Russell.
People like Gasly.
Russell knocked out.
Gasly crashed as well.
Both Williams through to Q2, big achievement for them.
Yeah.
Both McLarens through to Q3.
Q3, but Piastri P10, Norris P7. I think the biggest talking point was Nick de Vries and the disparity to his teammate.
He was rubbish.
He had a really shocking weekend. And I think it's because there wasn't a lot to go through this weekend. Should we start with teams?
Yeah.
And we'll sort of discuss both their drivers. Bottom of the constructors are Williams, but we're going to jump to AlphaTauri because they had the worst driver of the weekend. We'll go on to driver L and that, as we usually do. But Nick de Vries, I think he's already a shoo-in for that.
Which really surprised me because as a Formula E world champion, and that's a big step up, but they are known for racing around tight circuits which are hard to drive. He just didn't get it right this weekend at all.
Equally, driving electric go-karts very different to driving a Formula 1 car.
It is, but you're still part of that thrill of having them all so close to you. You'd think you'd be natural to it, but no, he binned in Friday qualifying. He was nowhere on Saturday, and he was nowhere on Sunday.
He's not impressed. Nick de Vries has really struggled to adapt to Formula 1.
And it makes the question, why do they bring in de Vries when they had so many talented Red Bull juniors waiting in the wings?
Would Liam Lawson have outperformed him so far?
100%.
You think?
Yeah.
Would he be closer to Tsunoda?
Yeah.
Because Tsunoda's looked alright, considering how bad that AlphaTauri is.
We saw Lawson. He's a multiple race winner in Formula 2. He leads the Super Formula Championship at the moment. This could be a half-season call to Liam Lawson.
I think,
look, mate, come over. De Vries, you're gone.
De Vries only has a one-year deal. Iwasa's doing well in Formula 2 as well. He currently is third in the championship, only behind Frederick Vesti and Théo Pourchaire. I could definitely see a move. Especially Dennis Hauger as well in that good MP car. There's every chance he comes high in the championship. Or potentially, I mean, if Pourchaire was to get promoted, could Helmut Marko work his magic, get him in there?
Maybe.
I think it's possible. But as I think De Vries will see out the season. A lot of people talking about him getting wins at the summer break. It's not impossible. I think it's a very high possibility. I don't think it's going to happen.
Speaking of Yuki, really good weekend. What a response!
I think he was unlucky not to score points. Right?
He scored 2.
Oh, did it? Oh, right.
They scored 1.
I was going to say
one. You got 1. Sorry.
There's only scored points at the point.
Not in the feature. What am I about? In the Grand Prix. He had a decent weekend. Got into Q3 on the Friday, I believe.
Yes, finished P8.
Yeah, and on the sprint Saturday, he also got into SQ3.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing then. So Tsunoda qualified P8. He really couldn't have done much more.
No.
Had Stroll and Russell behind him. We know they're in quicker cars. Yeah. If anything, it's a surprise he didn't let Piastri pass. We know, obviously, Piastri, we'll get on to him later, about his weekend. But, yeah, Tsunoda, I think, did really well to get the most out of his package.
Much better from Yuki. Much better. But AlphaTauri, on one side of the garage, solid weekend. On the other side, a struggle.
Yeah, really, what's the word? Compellingly bad season. Compelling what's already been a terrible season. On to Williams then, bottom of the championship right now. 1 point to their name.
I think they will be frustrated.
I thought you were annoyed there that I was slagging off Williams.
I think they'll be frustrated they didn't score points. Qualified 12-14 on the Friday. We know they're really quick in a straight line. They were in decent positions. Obviously Sargent wasn't in the sprint.
The thing is, this was an uncharacteristically tame Grand Prix at Baku. I would have expected to see, a red flag, a more safety car.
In an action-packed weekend, I think Williams would have picked up points because Sargent wasn't there on the Saturday, but he was there on the Sunday, and safety car caught him out a little bit, but Albon P12 in the end wasn't too bad. Sargent P16.
Didn't get lapped though.
He didn't, no.
I agree with, I think Crofty made the same comment on the broadcast actually, that this weekend gives vibes of the first ever race around Azerbaijan. Actually, not a very exciting race.
No.
Feeder series, mental.
They were mental, yeah.
And I'm sure we'll talk about that in a couple of weeks, but yeah, I think the overall, the main event of Formula 1 didn't give what we were expecting from Baku.
I think they let Williams down this weekend.
The thing is, if Baku doesn't have chaos, nothing happens.
No.
I saw people describing it as a chaos merchant as well, which I found amusing. But
if it isn't a crash at Baku, nothing happens.
Exactly. If the tyres aren't on fire and everyone's flipping across the track.
Because you cannot race. We can race there, but you can't. If you get what I mean.
The cars are too big. Yeah. That's why the feeder series works so well, because they've got small cars that can just round into each other. Yeah. But they can't let the F3 go, because that would be
strong
horrendous.
Pace, but didn't get the result they wanted.
Yeah. And also, another point, I think the straight is way too long for F1. In other series, where they're all very kind of equal, we know Formula 2 aren't equal, but to a certain extent they are. We know that on the main straight, they make up time on each other. If you see someone go past someone on the straight, then the next straight, they're probably losing that position. But in F1, it's like the way Max overtook Charles today was insultingly just quick. Just past him.
Yeah.
And then obviously we'll talk about the safety car and all that, which cocked him over.
Yeah.
But
Williams, not a great weekend, but not too bad.
Indeed. And then who was next in the championship? Alfa Romeo.
Terrible. Absolute shocker.
Well, yeah, qualifying. Both not great. Bottas got through 14th, Zhou 16th. Probably wouldn't have progressed had it not been for the safety car due to Nick de Vries hitting a wall. I don't think it was a sprint shootout then, 16-17, where they actually were on pace. Not a great weekend.
And then in the actual race,
sprint they took nothing from. Zhou did get to 12, fair enough. And then on the race,
DNF for Zhou and 18th for Bottas.
Yeah, Bottas kept pitting, and then Zhou was forced to retire due to some sort of mechanical.
Genuinely, an absolute shocker.
I mean, we've already said that Nick de Vries takes driver L. I think Alfa Romeo automatically take team L, but yeah, very poor weekend and a not great season. I'm surprised they're still 8th in the championship. Yeah, in the constructors.
Very.
Then it is Haas, right?
Yeah,
I believe Haas.
Yeah. What happened?
They were not great. I need to reach out to the
no. We'll get onto the race, but obviously, quali. They both got to. They both knocked out in Q1, weren't they?
Yeah, so qualifying they were 17-18 due to that.
Thought it would
crash
be
in
about,
Vries.
and then
I definitely think they could have got through ahead of
why
Bottas.
they in the sprint?
12, 14, both
Stronger.
So I think they didn't look to have a terrible package.
And then in the race,
Magnussen came 11th. Definitely could have got points in the sprint if he. Probably not. The top 8 too strong.
Hats off to Nico Hülkenberg.
Yeah, Nico Hülkenberg finishing P17. Really strong showing from Nico Hülkenberg there.
Hear me out. He was doing well. On that taking the hardest 47 laps, and the last few laps he fell, and
they gambled on something happened at Baku, which usually makes sense. Magnussen was P13,
so not horrific.
3 places off the points, about 6 seconds, so they're not far.
As you said, decent package, but again, good, decent like Williams, decent performance, no results.
They've found a little more pace this weekend, but McLaren have leapfrogged them.
Yeah.
So they've not improved anywhere. They seem now to be quicker than the Alfa Romeo. Alpha Tauri as well, I'd put below them, but Tsunoda's dragging that car up a lot, I think. So, I don't know. There's still weird bits fast.
Who's next?
Alpine, 8 points. This is a tragic season. We spoke already to how Alfa Romeo had a poor start. Alpine, no points from this weekend.
Shocking.
Not even really in contention for points. Ocon 15th, Gasly 14th in the race. Sprint, they were in a 13-18. Sprint shootout, obviously, Gasly finished P19 in both qualifying sessions.
Yeah.
Ocon 12th in quali, 13th in sprint. I think the pace has fallen off. McLaren have jumped him.
And
Haas are competitive with them.
Ocon did that one that hit me. So he started from the pit lane.
It's just a matter that this track doesn't suit their car.
I don't know.
Because they look good. They did look good in Australia, though. They definitely could have took big points.
It's just a mispaced and missed fortune. Gasly's car on fire in FP1.
That's probably why he didn't do great then. P19 both sessions.
They're not going to start from the pit lane in the race.
Yeah, I forgot that.
It was awful.
They went for the alternate strategy. It didn't work.
No.
That was
terrible
painful for
weekend.
them.
They've got to move on and come again in Miami.
Yes, then on to McLaren. P5 and the constructors. They took a very nice, almost over
new
this weekend.
Upgrades into the car, and I think they'll be very happy this weekend.
Yeah, so Lando Norris, we'll start with qualifying. Norris 7th, Piastri 10th. Great. They outperformed cars that are much quicker than them.
Both into Q3.
Yeah, Norris outperformed the Aston Martin of Lance Stroll and George Russell as well.
Yeah,
Russell getting knocked out. Piastri outperformed Russell.
Brilliant.
Great results. Sprint shootout, similar thing. 10-11. They were, I think, exactly where they are right now.
And Lando could only get as much as 10th because he didn't have a mandatory new soft tyre to perform in that sprint.
If it wasn't for Albon being somehow 7th in the sprint shootout, then we'd be speaking about
hats off to Alex.
Them potentially being a lot higher.
Yeah.
As for the sprint race, then Piastri probably could have took points.
Lando pitted. Lando took the softs. And then realised they weren't going to last, so we had to come in. Yeah,
it's annoying because there's 4 teams, which means there's 8 drivers that are good enough, that are too good to really anyone to compete with. Meaning that Albon and Piastri both put in great showings, took nothing from the sprint.
Yeah,
they could easily make that 10-1 and give all the top 10 points like they do in the.
Piastri drove well. Saying he's been ill all week. He's been a really good weekend.
Yeah, he finished up P11. I feel if a fully fit Piastri is on the tail of Lando and they're, slipstreaming up to Russell. But
you saw the pictures of him after the sprint. He just looked empty.
He's really ill.
He lost 3 kilos.
Don't know what's going on with that McLaren. Lando was ill for most of last season. Piastri's ill at the start of this one.
Hopefully he'll come back better.
Weird coincidence.
And, fitter in Miami. But a strong weekend for McLaren. Not strong. Well, yeah, solid weekend for McLaren.
Yeah, and then obviously Norris P9, 2 points. I feel George Russell looks closer than he was, doesn't he?
That's where Lando wants to be though. Best of the rest.
Yeah, and I feel that on a normal weekend, Piastri takes out 10th and McLaren take a double points finish, which is exactly what they're looking for. I think
they are the 5th best team with their new upgrades.
They can get back to 4th though. I fully believe they can definitely they can be competitive with Ferrari, Mercedes.
I think, and when one of them slips up, McLaren want to be the team that takes advantage of that.
Yeah.
Look how they got a 1-2 last year when everyone else was pissing about fighting each other in Monza. So in 21. Yeah, well, that was last year. That wasn't last year.
On to Ferrari then. Did they make the most of their package or did they fail to exploit a very good qualifying?
Leclerc did what he could. P2 in the sprint, P3 in the race.
Yeah, so quali obviously took both
Sainz.
poles, proceeded then to second and third.
I mean,
Good point.
it's hard to take the Red Bulls anyway, but when you're taking them on the 2v1, it doesn't help. Sainz was just off the pace.
So Sainz in the sprint shootout, qualifying P4, fair enough. I can understand why he'd be 4. He's ahead of what he should be. He's behind the Red Bulls. He's behind his teammate. Yeah. Fair enough. It's just the fact he was a full second almost off Charles Leclerc. Which I think that pace deficit is a massive issue for right now.
We know Leclerc's good around Baku, but that's too big. That is a too big of a deficit.
Yeah, for example, Perez is good around Baku, but Max is still right there with him. Then, sorry, I didn't even look at I wasn't looking at the last timings. Yeah, so it was almost a second, about 8/10. In the sprint shootout, then Sainz was about 6/10 off Charles.
Yeah,
which is still not great. Sprint race 5th. He definitely could have got Russell. But he was really under assault from Alonso for most of it, rather than actually looking dangerous. Then the race, Alonso did get him, but Russell wasn't up there, obviously, because he was down P11. So P5 in both of those for Sainz. He really has to be P4 for me. He should... the Ferrari's clearly the second quickest package.
I think Leclerc did what he could, but will still be frustrated he didn't get more. Sainz... He needs to bounce back in Miami.
I did see people saying that Leclerc underperformed because he took pole and then proceeded to slip to 3rd. I just feel that the Red Bull package is too good. So
look at the way Max breezed past him. Leclerc couldn't do anything apart from cheat, which he also isn't really good to do.
It's not. Certain other drivers on the grid. But I don't think
not a bad promise for Ferrari, because they've shown that on one lap pace they can beat Red Bull, but still a lot of work to do.
Should we talk about Aston Martin? I just remember who was 3rd off the top of my head. Aston's 6-9 in quali, 8-9 in sprint. Ferrari seem to have more pace than them around here, and I think that is straight line speed.
It is, but also you've got to remember on Friday and Saturday both cars had DRS problems.
Yeah. That doesn't help, does it?
So in quali they were down. Stroll had problems. He could only get P9.
Well, in fairness, then Alonso 2 places gained from the sprint shootout in the sprint. Stroll 1, and in the race, Alonso went up from another 2 places gained.
That move on Carlos Sainz from Fernando Alonso, take a bow, sunshine.
Yeah, and then to fill out a 23-second gap to him, take a bow, sunshine.
I'm proud of that one.
Yeah, if she's into him, we don't know. We cannot confirm nor deny whether Alonso and Swift are shacking up. However, moving on, Mercedes somehow second in the constructors. I don't think they've been all that impressive. I think it may have changed now. Yeah, Aston are now ahead of Mercedes.
That's all right. We're along the right lines.
Yeah. Qualifying, 5-11. Poor for George Russell.
Yeah, so this might be harsh, but I'm going to say it wasn't a great weekend.
Yeah. Because even if Russell had got through, found those 4,000, Hamilton would have been out. So they both underperformed really in qualifying.
And obviously, and that was
Hamilton
with Aston Martin's DRS problems. An Il Piastri, a Williams, and an AlphaTauri.
Hamilton still then took P5 obviously in Q3, not bad. In the sprint shootout, 4-6. That's a lot more like what we'd expect.
I don't know how Russell got his P4. I do not know, but he held it. He held on to it.
Yeah, he did well. Obviously, he overtook Max initially. That caused quite the stir. That's all they've talked about all weekend. The fact that Russell took a chunk out of Verstappen's side pod.
I understand Max's frustrations, but I think it was just hard but fair racing.
Yeah. Max would do the same to other opponents, so I think
the one thing I don't like is that when Max talked to George about it, George was like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I haven't got any grip." Then when when Russell talked to the press, he was like, "Oh yeah, don't know what he's on about." What did he say? I said, "I'm bringing a fight. I'm not going to back down because he's a championship leader. I'm going to fight him. I'm going to challenge him." But whenever he talks to Max's face, it's pathetic.
Or as Max said, and next time we're out there, I'll do the same.
And then dickhead.
Legend.
So but George Russell grows some bollocks.
And then in the race, a 6-8, they sort of just didn't do a lot.
No.
They qualified low, couldn't really improve on their performances. Alonso got past Hamilton.
How did Russell not get Stroll? It's beyond me.
Well, Russell couldn't get him, was too far back, so pitted to go and get fastest lap, which he did get, to be fair. Did go and get that fast lap.
Softs.
Well, he still had to do it, so to get the lap in. So yeah,
and then one team.
Red Bull. They were a bit boring, aren't they?
Right, so one side of the garage, we'll start with Perez. What a weekend.
Oh, superb.
Faultless, really.
P3 in quali.
Which I thought, he's having a bit of trouble here. But race
made the most of his fortune. P2 in the sprint. He won the sprint. He won the feature. Could have took a Grand Slam if he took any fastest laps this weekend.
Yeah, no. Race pace was strong. As we said, got a bit fortunate with the safety car that caught Max Verstappen out. But that's how racing works. Sometimes you get the rub of the green, sometimes you don't. Perez, really strong weekend. Brilliant Grand Prix. Looks really strong in the sprint. Max, I think he'll be very disappointed. As we said, he was fanning around with George Russell in the sprint. Got pipped to pole by Charles Leclerc on the Friday. And on the Saturday, got caught out by a safety car, which cost him the win.
Did say Perez could take the Grand Slam. He couldn't. He didn't take pole, did he? But he should have, really. I think he had the pace, evidently, to take pole. In the race, he was fortunate. Do you think if Max was leading, Perez would have got him? If the safety car hadn't come out and Max pitted before it, do you think Perez would have caught and passed Max Verstappen?
On the basis that when the safety car came back in, Perez was quicker and he held the gap, I would say yes. Well, I think it had caught him, but I don't. That would be an interesting scenario if Perez had been behind Max and caught him.
I think they would have fought. I don't know. I don't think Perez would have caught him. I think the only reason Max didn't catch Perez was that they thought of the greater good of the championship. Because I feel Max was being conservative this weekend. He could have blasted through the tyres, flown to try and catch Sergio Perez, and probably would have got him and then be fighting with him. But I don't know. Maybe he lacked pace.
Yeah, he might be. If he was conservative, weird, because saying on the Saturday he was so riled up and fired up that he wasn't, near the front or wasn't leading. I think he'd have wanted to win on the Sunday.
But the Sunday he'd also have flashbacks to 2 years ago, where his tyres blew up and he ended up smashing out of the race and took nothing from the weekend. He'd have flashbacks to when the Red Bulls fought together in 2018. I think it was very much, he knew that if he fought with Checo, this is a difficult track to race at side by side. You can easily take both of you out of contention, and then what looks like a comfortable championship for Max goes to, well, actually Charles only 20 points.
I think if you're Red Bull, you look at this weekend and go, Sergio Perez is a machine at street circuits and is so quick and it suits his driving style perfectly. And Max Verstappen, he's just, Baku is just not his circuit. As you said, you mentioned 2 years ago when his tyre blew up. You mentioned when he went into the back of Ricciardo in 2018. But he's never taken pole here, I don't believe.
No, never.
It's just not his circuit, is it?
Yeah, I think you're right there. It's not one of his more enjoyable.
And that'll affect him because
weekends.
he's a quick driver, but he'll look, as you said this weekend, he'd look back at the last 5 races he's done here and gone, well, they're all rubbish.
Yeah, another sort of a closing question. We'll get on to driver doves and L's and teams doves and L's, but do you think Sergio Perez can seriously fight Max Verstappen for the World Championship?
I do. I really do. We've seen it this year so far. That Perez has, and when he wasn't funny around at the back at Melbourne, take Melbourne out of it, it's 2 wins to Perez and 1 win to Verstappen. Yeah.
Also, bit of a hypothetical, do you think Red Bull would step in?
No.
If they're fighting, do you think Red Bull would go, you're free to fight, or would they potentially favour Max?
I think they'd play free to fight. Because Max has already got 2. Say Max had missed out on 21 and he didn't somehow win last year. So say Max hadn't won a World Championship yet. But you no way can... If Perez is seriously in the fight, no team should be able to take that chance away from Sergio Perez winning the Formula 1 World Championship. Because this is last year. This is his year to win it, said Perez. I don't think he'll get another chance.
Yeah, fair enough.
And I think if they take that away from him, they are cruel.
I don't think they will. I just wanted to put the question out there because I know there'll be people out there that go, oh, well, they love Verstappen, don't they? So Horner's going to go and puncture Perez's tyre. I don't think I'm going to make it that obvious.
On to the WZLs of the weekend. I think these are all pretty straightforward.
Firstly, Red Bull, should we hand them a Constructors' Trophy now? Because they are 93 points ahead of Aston Martin.
Pretty good, that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
It's all right. So, driver double... No, we'll start with the L's. Driver L of the weekend. Does it rhyme with lick, lair, niece? No, that sounds horrendous.
Yeah.
God.
Yeah, don't say that ever again. But yeah, no. His car stopped. He was DNF'd in the race, and it was rubbish all weekend. No,
yeah, but he didn't do great.
It's yours, we might as well do joint ones because I think all these are nail on.
Yeah, I agree with Nick de Vries.
Team L has to be Alfa Romeo. They were absolutely rubbish.
I'm going to go different here. I'm going to go Alpine. Yeah, they were also horrendously poor.
I think because Ocon actually showed a bit of pace on the Sunday and we'll let him off.
Bit of pace. He was on the alternate strategy. Ended up 9th thanks to a safety car, and then just sort of piddle around with Hulkenberg for an hour, and then ended up like 17th. And now happened like
even Hulkenberg just piddling around.
Yeah.
Okay, no, I'll give it to Alfa Romeo because they had a torrid time.
Yeah, fair enough. Where we go? Driver, Team W.
Team W. Ooh.
This is what I don't really know. Ooh. Like Red Bull. Oh, well done. Again.
My shout might be McLaren. Because who else?
Yeah, I don't know.
What team? I know Red Bull got a 1-2. That's
probably
boring.
Just say Red Bull, innit?
I'm going to go McLaren because they had a good weekend. They didn't really have a good weekend.
I think I'd probably say Red Bull.
Yeah, I think it has to be because what I also look at is I think Red Bull were probably the only team that improved majorly on their performance in Melbourne.
Because if you look at every single team, right, there's nothing more Perez and Verstappen could have done, right? 1-2. Ferrari, Sainz could have overtaken Alonso. Yeah. Aston, Stroll could have been ahead of Hamilton.
And they could have fixed their DRS.
And so, Aston's, they should have been ahead of both. Both of them should have been ahead of Mercedes. Maybe even fighting with Stroll fighting with Sainz, and then the Mercedes were far off where they weren't really competing with Aston and Ferrari.
Yes, we'll give it to Red Bull then. Team W's Red Bull and driver W. I think it has to go to Sergio Perez.
What's going on?
What a weekend!
Sergio Perez.
Yeah. What a weekend!
Yeah, he's really good around here.
He loves Baku.
Loves it.
He is a Baku master. He's a street circuit master. Wait, and I know is Miami a street circuit though?
Well, it's on a straight, isn't it?
So will Perez tear it up? Who knows? Bit wide.
He didn't last time.
It's hardly a street. I look back at Jeddah. Back
he likes
Monaco.
walls.
Yeah,
there are walls at Miami, but you're nowhere near them.
Loves walls.
Well, that's going to be the closing statement. If you have enjoyed, make sure to keep the conversation going in the comments below. We'd love you guys to have an open discourse down there about the Grand Prix. Oh, there's a lot to talk about, but maybe you can discuss: is Nick de Vries washed? Probably. He's on fraud watch at the moment because that's not Nick de Vries. Yeah, that's some other bloke who's managed to look like him.
Fraud watch under investigation.
I think they stick the helmet on and run out, and it's actually just like Franz Tost.
So like Nick de Vries is still racing in Formula E.
Yeah, big conspiracy theory. But yeah, I don't know what I'm saying. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. Subscribe if you're new around here. We are 3 subs away from 150 at the time of recording. So it would be great if you could hit that subscribe button because I will smile for eternity. That is all from us today. Thank you very much for watching and we'll see you next time.
See ya.